Hi everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm delighted to say that I'm joined by Pete Graves from Sky Sports today, and we're looking forward to hearing his thoughts of last season, a season of two halves, I think it was fair to say, and then also looking ahead to what will be a very exciting transfer window, and of course next season, which will be the new owner's first full season in charge. Hi Pete, how are you?
I'm great, Holly. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be on your new YouTube channel. So thanks a lot.
No problem. Thanks for agreeing to come on. And I think I'll start with the first question, which you probably get sick of answering. But the 7th of October, such a pivotal date in the club's history, the day that the takeover went through. Obviously, you're in a unique position because you're a Newcastle fan, but you also cover Newcastle for a living. So what was that like? And did you know that it was going to happen before everyone else, or did you just find out at the same time as everyone?
Honestly, I knew before everyone.
Right, okay.
And it was the most nervous few days between me finding out. I think I found out on the Friday and the news broke on, I think, the Wednesday. I can't remember, it was midweek. And every day from me finding out it was going to happen to it actually happening, I was so nervous because I thought if it comes out in another newspaper or somewhere else, I'll have missed the scoop. So what we did was I told my bosses here, and I told Keith Downey and all the guys to just be ready. And we got our cameras ready and everything. But even until it actually happened, I still had this thing in my back of my mind that it could still, go wrong in the last minute, which had happened before. So I kept it to myself, and I thought, I'm not gonna put it all out there and say, oh, by the way, it's happening. And I know I've done it before with eye emojis on, when managers are getting the sack, and but I thought I'm not going to put anything out on Twitter or anything. I'm just going to keep quiet, and hopefully this time it goes through. So when it all started unraveling on that day, it was just the best day ever. And people were sending cans to the Sky studio for me to drink on the day. And I was up here. There was a talk for a while that I would travel up and be with Keith, be in the Northeast, and we'd sort of present together from outside St. James's Park. But in the end, they decided to keep me here in London, and I was helping to get guests on. So I was going through my phone book, getting all of the ex-players on and stuff to react live. And I did a lot of those interviews in the studio here. So it worked out really well. But when it was announced, I was in bits. I was literally, when I saw the Yasser Al-Rumayyan statement, I was, so emotional. And then they went live to Keith, and Keith started to go and started to almost like well up as well. And I'm thinking, wow, he's a Scotsman, who grew up supporting a club in Scotland, and he's now an adopted Geordie. But I thought, if he's crying, I've got no chance. I'm going to break down in tears here. But luckily, seeing him get emotional made me just sort of gather my thoughts, and I was able to sort of compose myself. And then they threw it to me in the studio, and I just waffled on about how we've got our club back and everything like that. So yeah, it was a great moment, and something I'll never forget.
And I know you posted just last night on social media that was the first time it had probably sunk in. And I suppose because it's been such a big workload for everyone on Sky Sports and across all media companies, I think it's fair to say since the takeover broke, just sitting back now and reflecting, how important do you think the takeover is for the club's future?
It's massive, isn't it? I mean, I think that what people found difficult to get their heads around was that it wasn't necessarily the fact that Newcastle fans would have taken anyone buying the club. I think that's the thing. There'd have been celebrations in the street if, Jim from the local chip shop had bought the club. They were just so desperate for a change in ownership. And that was what the big celebration was. The club wasn't going anywhere. The blueprint for Newcastle United was to finish fourth bottom and not try in the cups. I mean, it was effectively a zombie club, which was so difficult to support and to get yourself there. And I was one of the supporters who stayed. We kept our season tickets, and as a family, we've been going since the 1980s. So we kept going through the whole Mike Ashley era. We've seen some pretty bad times in the 80s and 90s as well, pre-Kevin Keegan. So we stuck in. And I'm so pleased we did, but it was tough. It was really tough. And if we went on holiday, I couldn't shift my tickets. I mean, it's like you couldn't even give them to people. Do you know what I mean? I mean, going on holiday and said, "Oh, I've got a couple of tickets for the game at the weekend," and friends would be like, "Nah, you're all right. I'm doing something else." But now it's like I get a million messages every game. It's like, any chance you can get us any tickets for the game? I'm like, nah, you've got no chance now. I'm afraid you should have gone when I had spares. It's so difficult now, but yeah, it's just exciting that we're a club that wants to buy players in the window, wants to win trophies. Amanda said it herself moments before. I think you tackled her outside Jesmond Dean House. She said that they wanted to win trophies. So that's fantastic. It's exciting.
No, it is. And of course, like you mentioned there, I was lucky enough to meet them briefly outside the Jesmond Dean House on that day. And it was just crazy. And hearing them speak about the club and their ambitions, I think that is beyond our wildest dreams as Newcastle supporters, because we just wanted to go into the new season with a bit of hope. And then people talking about trophies, challenging for the Premier League title, it just feels really crazy, doesn't it?
It really does. And you're absolutely right. Newcastle fans, like kind of like what I said before, they would have taken anyone, just someone who wanted to try and build the club, and even, you know, to try and finish in the top half, you know, or to try and not be flirting with relegation every season, to put out a decent team in the FA Cup. That's all Newcastle fans wanted. What's happened is they've got owners who've come out straight away and said they want to win the Champions League, which is pretty crazy. But no, all great. I think, you know, we've got to be patient and just enjoy it. What annoys me so much is when I see fans already getting frustrated about stuff, and I think, oh, guys, you read Twitter and you think, just enjoy it. Certain people moaning about the brand that's making the strips, and certain people saying, oh, the sponsor, oh, it's terrible if the sponsor doesn't change. Or just everyone's got to relax. Just enjoy it. We're in so much better place. If they miss out on one of their transfer targets because they choose another club, doesn't matter. They'll sign someone else. At least they're going to sign someone else. You know, I just want fans to enjoy this, because I've seen it before under Sir Bobby Robson, when we finished third, then we finished fourth, then we finished fifth, and people were moaning about like how bad it was, and he left, and there was nothing to enjoy for years. And I used to think to myself, why did people get so upset when Bobby Robson finished fifth? You know, when we were going to have years and years of this mid-table flirting with relegation. So Newcastle fans need to chill out, in my opinion. And I'm one of you, so I feel like I can say, chill out, enjoy the ride, enjoy what's happening, and try not to get upset about anything, because there's nothing to get upset about.
I couldn't agree more. And I think people need to remember it's been such a short amount of time, and you've got to be there for the ups and downs, because nothing's going to be perfect all the time. It is the real world. I think people need to remember that. And briefly, we'll touch on a more kind of depressing subject, and very briefly, because I want to keep it as positive as possible. But looking back towards the beginning of the season, it was quite a uneventful summer window. Obviously, we only brought in Joe Willock. Steve Bruce was the manager at that point, and we were pretty much in the bottom three up until the January. At the beginning of the season, did you think there was any chance we were going to escape that relegation fight, or did you think we were only heading one way, which was down?
I'm a really optimistic person, so I'm kind of one of those that always thinks we'll be all right. So Newcastle are just one of those, and I always know we've finished the season strong. Even under Steve Bruce the season before, we'd finished the season relatively strong after a terrible start of the campaign, and we'd done the same under Rafa the season before. So I wasn't sort of cashing in my chips quite yet. I didn't think we were down, but everything that happened with Steve Bruce obviously getting sacked eventually. He obviously kept the job for a couple of games after the takeover happened. And then Eddie Howe came in. I mean, honestly, it wasn't 100% easy for me to turn around now and say, oh, I was buzzing when they got Eddie Howe. The jury was out for me. I wanted him to do well. And I still hope he's our manager for the next 20 years now. But at the time I thought, oh, is he the one? Is he the right man to get us out of the mess we're in? He'd had a relegation with Bournemouth, and I wasn't 100% convinced. I absolutely love everything he said, everything he's done, his tactics, the players he's brought in, the things he says. Met him a couple of times, top fella. I love his passion on the sidelines. I love everything about him. So I'm delighted to have, been proved, well, not proved wrong, but I'm delighted that he's actually come out and been brilliant. What an appointment that's proved to be. So yeah, buzzing with that. And like I say, my son sent me a thing today. My son's only 10 years old, but he's massively into football. I always wanted a son who might quite like football, just so I could go to the match. He likes it more than me, to the point where I'm almost like, will you watch something else on your phone? Because he just watches clips of football. And he sent me one today, which was Sir Alex Ferguson on his last game, and they were listing all his trophies. He won 13 Premier Leagues and Champions League and all. And he was like, wow, God, I didn't realize he won so many trophies. And I actually replied and I said, imagine if that's Eddie Howe in sort of 20 years' time. And he's saying all the things he's won at St. James's Park. And he was like, yeah, wow, Dad, imagine. So, yeah, I hope that's the way that we go with Eddie.
Yeah, Eddie Howe has been fantastic, and obviously you've touched on him quite a bit there, but the appointment of Eddie Howe, obviously at the time you said you weren't too sure, you were a bit 50-50 on the fence with him. What sort of job do you think he's done in his first kind of 6 months at Newcastle?
10 out of 10 in all categories. I was with Kevin Keegan not so long ago. I speak to Kevin quite a lot, actually, and it's weird to think that, I got to know Sir Bobby Robson very well as well in his latter years. And I know Kevin very well now. And these two are my sort of heroes. And Kevin said that Eddie had phoned him up and sounded him out about the club. And I just thought, wow, what a brilliant thing to do, because no one understands the fabric of the football club like Kevin Keegan. And Keegan had given him all this advice about, how to be honest with the supporters and everything. And the fact that Eddie was making that call to speak to Kevin shows how much he understands the club already. He seems to understand the fans, the football club. The signings he's made have been very astute. He had a big say in those signings, by the way. I think in a lot of clubs, the owners are sort of buying players and the head coach just coaches, but Eddie is very much a part of the transfers. He has the final say. The owners and the Steve Nixon and everyone is throwing names his way, but he has the final say, and I love that as well. The players he brought in made a huge difference. He's tactically got it right, and I think the best thing that he's done is that he's made players that were absolutely awful good footballers. I mean, players that I thought had no future at the club, all of a sudden I absolutely adore them. Players like, obviously, Joe Linton's the obvious one, Emil Kraft as well, but Shelvey got better, Willett got better, Shaw got better. They all got better. And even, I know everyone used to have a go at Jamal Lascelles for a period. He came in those last couple of games, and for me, was sensational. I mean, I just thought you saw a player there who has been on the training field with Eddie Howe for the past however many months as well. And I just think he's made a lot of average players very good footballers, and it's going to be difficult to shift on some of those players because they've all done so well in the second half of the season. I mean, they're the obvious ones that will go, but there are some as well which, there's going to be some tough decisions for him to make.
As you said, and rightfully so, that Eddie Howe's been a 10 out of 10, but did you ever think that he'd guide us from the bottom three to an astounding 11th place finish at the end of the season?
No, I didn't think that. I was hoping he could steer us clear of the bottom three. I would have taken fourth bottom, particularly as the win still didn't come initially when he first got the job. But then the run that they went on, I was at Leeds away when we won 1-0. I was in the away end with my little lad, and that win was so nervy. And you could see the players really, they still weren't really quite buying into the whole thing. But they got the victory, and that proved to be so important. And then they just went on this incredible run there. They just got better and better and better. What I will say about that Leeds away performance was that although they didn't play the best football, you could see that every single player was giving 110%. And I've never seen it like that. They ran the legs off, and they got away with a 1-0 win. And that was the turning point. And it made me realize that those players would run through brick walls for Eddie Howe. And at that point, I thought, we might get out of this. But I did not expect us to go on the run that we went on and to finish, 11th and sort of very nearly breaking into the top half. That is down there with one of the best managerial performances I've seen in the history of being a sports journalist. What he's done. You look at what Steve Cooper's done at Forest and taking them up to the Premier League from the bottom of the league. Well, what Eddie Howe did with Newcastle is sort of similarly incredible. He deserves a lot of credit.
100%. And also the January window, I think that played a massive part in our survival, obviously bringing in some incredible new signings. What did you make of that window, and who was your standout signing?
Bruno.
Yeah,
brilliant. And he's just such a good footballer. He's actually one of the best I've seen. I went out for lunch on Sunday in the Gosforth area, and I was saying to people there, I said, for me, He's the most classy footballer I've seen in a black and white shirt since Johan Cabaye, who was very good as well. But I think Bruno edges it. And I think he could go on to be an absolute icon for Newcastle. He's going to get better and better. He can do it all. He passes the ball. He can score goals. He can put tackles in. He's got everything. So for me, he's the best. If Trippier had stayed fit throughout the season, there would have been a case for Trippier as well. Even on that last game against Burnley when he came in, I was at that game as well. And it reminded me, even though Kraft had done so well, Trippier coming in and just reminded me how good he was, so composed on the ball. He's a brilliant footballer. So I'll give it to Bruno. Trippier a very close second, but you know what? They all did a great job. Chris Wood at times, he didn't score as many goals as people would have liked, but he gave us a presence up there and we were desperate for that. So I think he was worth the price tag because he scored goals that, that penalty that he scored against Wolves and won against Wolves was massive. The goal he scored against Southampton turned the game when we were looking in danger there. So Target obviously has done brilliantly at left back as well. And Big Dan Burn, wow. I mean, had a couple of, he sort of started amazing and then he had a little wobble midway, but then finished the season really strong. And, I think all in all, there's a case for all of them to win best signing, but I'll just give it to Bruno.
And Dan Burn, of course, a lot of people are a bit mixed opinions on him. I think some people love him. Some people are questioning why we paid that amount for a striker that doesn't score a lot of goals. Do you
Chris
think...
Wood.
Oh, yeah, Chris Wood, sorry, of course. Don't know where that came from. Do you think he'll play a big part next season, or do you think that we'll probably sign someone in that'll be more a proven goal scorer?
I don't know, Holly. That's a really good question because I think Chris Wood has clearly got ability. He's clearly a presence. Depends what strikers they buy. I think there's a place for Chris Wood potentially, and with all due respect to him, there's a place for him on the bench. Is a different option. Maybe if you're winning a game 2-0 and you want to sort of put someone up there that you can just knock the ball long to, then he'll hold the ball up for you. I mean, clearly Wilson, if he can stay fit, is the one you want to play. His goals to game ratio is unbelievable. And I think they're looking at a couple of other strikers as well. I know Ekatike has been mentioned. I know that Darwin Núñez has been mentioned, and there's one or two others as well. So I think they'll try and sign another striker or two. And then it just depends on how many they land, whether or not Chris Wood, I mean, they'll certainly not sell him, but I mean, it just depends on what the squad looks like when we get towards the start of next season. If they've managed to sign two strikers, do they loan him out for a year to another Premier League club who they don't consider to be a rival, or do they keep him there as an option? It'd be fascinating to see what happens, but I don't think his future at St James's Park next season would be guaranteed, depending on who they sign.
Do you think we'd need to sign more than one striker?
I would. I would like, Dominic Calvert-Lewin's been mentioned as well. Now, he's a quality player. He's in these players that I think these players that are in the England squad, like Wilson, like Trippier, like Dominic Calvert-Lewin, when you get them playing for your club, you see them for what a good player they are. I watched Everton a couple of times this season, and I was at Vicarage Road actually just a couple of games before the end of the season when he came on, and he's big, he's broad, he wins headers, he holds the ball up well. But of course, there's this doubt about his injuries. I think if you had someone like him and Wilson, one of them's going to pick up an injury here or there. But if you could dovetail them with one playing half an hour, one playing an hour, and have two players like that, I think that would be great. But then you'd have to sign another one as well. Maybe Ekatike is a young option who could learn from those and sort of play a part as well. If they want to win trophies, they're going to have a team that they're going to have options. They have to have a big squad. So yeah, I'd be tempted to sign an experienced striker like Calvert-Lewin or Núñez, and then a young striker like Ekatike or one of the others that's been mentioned.
We've spoken a lot about on the pitch, the manager change, the new players coming in and what impact that made, but also what do you make of kind of the transformation in the attitude of fans? Because I think the start of the season, everyone was very feeling quite depressed, feeling quite down, feeling like the only way was down, we weren't going to do anything this season. And then now we are on an absolute high, thinking that, the sky's the limit for next season. Sometimes we can get a bit carried away, I think it's fair to say. But how important do you think it is that the fans are back on side with the football club again?
Massive. And the fans are a huge reason why Newcastle finished the season so strong. And it just amazes me that all those years Mike Ashley owned the football club, he never harnessed the power of the supporters, because, you know, Mike Ashley would, like, you know, regardless of what you think, he would have loved Newcastle to be challenging at the top of the league instead of flirting with relegation. He didn't want them down there. So, but you're never going to do well at Newcastle if you don't get the fans on side. And the fact that the new owners and Eddie Howe have got the fans so much united again, it's incredible. The fans played a huge role, and wore flags were absolutely incredible. But the noise in that stadium, I actually messaged certain members of the new ownership after the Arsenal game, and I said I hadn't heard it as loud as that since the 90s. Now, this was a Monday night, you know, under the lights, and, you know, people had work the next day, people had school, but it was packed to the rafters. And the noise in that stadium, the game kicked off, and you could tell straight away, I just thought Newcastle are going to win this game, because Arsenal, the players, you could see them looking around. Ramsdale got the ball, and he's a top goalkeeper, by the way, tried to clear it, and he sliced it off the pitch, and all the crowd went up. And I thought, wow, they are not going to fancy this tonight on a cold Monday night in the Northeast with this level of noise. And, you know, sure enough, Newcastle cheered them on to, the fans cheered them on to 3 points. But yeah, the fans have been incredible. I've loved it, everything. And fair play. I was thinking about this last night, because I put a tweet out which he responded to. I was listening to Big River on my Spotify, my earphones, coming down in the train, having a glass of red wine, getting a bit emotional. And I thought to myself, the guys who sort of play the music at St. James's Park, they deserve an awful lot of credit. That the build up to kickoff is absolutely awesome now, with all the songs, and it's just fantastic. And then it sort of builds to that crescendo, and then Local Hero. And I'm quite an emotional person anyway, but I'm just, you know, crying my eyes out pre-game and post-game. Hey Jude comes on at the end, you know, they've got it absolutely spot on, and it's all adds to it. And then with war flags all around the stadium, there's nowhere better. You feel bad, don't you, in a way, but it makes me laugh when other clubs just try and bring flags out, and it looks so pathetic compared to Newcastle. You're just like, oh, they're nowhere near. I took the Manchester United game. I went to the game with a couple of my colleagues here from Sky. One of them was a Manchester United fan. The other one was a Chelsea fan. And they were at the game before. This was we drew 1-1, and this was actually, we hadn't quite hit the heights that we've hit now with the atmosphere, but they were looking around like, wow, this is unbelievable, this atmosphere. They couldn't believe it. And that was a Man United fan and a Chelsea fan. They were really shocked by how loud it was, and sort of the fans. So I think the Newcastle fans are back. We've always been the best fans in the world, but we've been in hiding a little bit, but we're back.
Definitely. And it's got that feeling that something special is about to happen as well. I know a lot of fans that are slightly older than me always reminisce about the Kevin Keegan days, and I miss that. And I'd imagine that this is the closest feeling that we've had as fans since those days. So really looking forward to seeing what kind of journey we go on, because we've got to remember it's only been 6 months. And what have you made of the owner's first 6 months in charge? I think it's been fantastic.
10 out of 10.
Same as anyhow.
But it's funny you should mention Keegan, because I was there at Kevin Keegan's first game in charge, which was a home game. I think they played Bristol City and they won 3-0. I'm pretty sure it was. Someone might correct me on that, but I'm almost certain. I was there in the Milburn paddock. I was about 10 years old, and the feeling in the stadium, that first game that Keegan was there as manager, was very similar to the feeling I got when the owners were there for the first time for the game against Spurs. It was like this expectation and this, like, a massive sort of weight had been lifted off the club. The fans bought into Keegan, and we just went on this incredible run, survived that season. Following season, got promoted up to the Premier League, and then first season in the Premier League finished third. And it was just like this incredible run. And then we were in FA Cup finals, we're challenging for the title. It was just amazing. I was about 10 years old, 10 or 11. My son's now 10, and I'm saying to him, you've got no idea what the next few years are going to be like. You're going to go on the same journey that we all went on with Kevin Keegan as manager back in the 90s. I just hope that Kevin never managed to win something. I just hope that this lot will win something. I'm certain they will. Kevin himself said that he thinks they'll win something in the next couple of years, 2 to 3 years, even if it's even it's a Carabao Cup or anything, just something, just to take that sort of, just to break the hoodoo, take the monkey off the back of the club and just say, look, we've won a trophy now. And then they can relax. And once you win one, you can go on and win others. I think the owners have been brilliant. They're Amanda and Murdad, wonderful people. Jamie's up there as well. Jamie Rubin, top bloke as well. And I think that the other arm from PIF, we know less about, Yasser Al Ramayan, who's a big sports fan. Obviously, he's involved with the golf very heavily at the moment. But certainly Amanda and Murdad, who've been the face of the club. The communication's been incredible. They support the foundation events. That, it was incredible. I went to the Newcastle United Foundation Awards, and there was Amanda and Murdad at the awards. And then Amanda stood up and given one out and got on the microphone. I just thought, you could never have imagined the old owner doing anything like that. So they're really invested in the club. The women's team, they were both there when the women played at St. James's Park in front of 22,000 people. They're so invested in everything in the club, and it's fantastic to have owners who care.
You said about winning silverware. Do you think that Eddie Howe will be the manager to do that? I know a lot of people initially were under the impression that he was a bit of a stepping stone manager, and I always found that quite disrespectful, because I think people deserve a chance, and so far he's done more than impressed, I think it's fair to say. So do you think he can take us to that next step and challenge for trophies?
Yeah, I hope so. I really hope he's the man to do it, because I think whoever does do it will be a hero on Tyneside for years to come. So I hope he's given the opportunity. I think he will be given the opportunity. I think he needs to be given like at least 3 years to try and grow the club, challenge for trophies, and obviously get us up the table. So I hope he gets that time, and I hope the fans give him that time as well. Expectations have changed now. That's going to be the most difficult thing. Newcastle fans, they're starting to expect a little bit. So say, for example, this season we finish 11th again, and next season we finish 11th again, and there's no trophy. The fans are going to start getting a bit disgruntled, or will they accept that it's going to take a bit of time? It's going to be fascinating to see what happens. I mean, I can't wait. I certainly don't think we'll struggle against relegation next season. I can't see it. I hope I'm right. But yeah, I think it's going to be an exciting time, and I hope Eddie Howe is the one to do it.
And the transformation of this season, finally, before we move on to the summer, do you think that was down to the players, the manager, the owners, or do you think it was more of a collective effort?
Definitely collective. You said it yourself there. I think it's the fans, it's the owners, it's the players, it's Eddie Howe and the coaching staff. It's everything just coming together to make an incredible second half of the season. And I don't think Newcastle fans will ever have experienced the excitement they're going to feel building up to the start of next season as they will. They won't have felt that for a long time. I think fixtures coming out is going to be, it takes on a whole new significance. You're going to be looking at, whereas I always used to look at the last 5 games and think we're going to be in a relegation battle. So where are we going to pick points up from that? Won't be like that now. I'll be looking at the big fixtures again, looking at, when we play the sort of big top 6 teams, and looking at maybe when we can steal points off them. So yeah, it's going to be fascinating.
And looking ahead to the summer now, a window which has been widely speculated about. Some people think we're going to be spending the hundreds of millions. Other people think we're going to be spending a lot less, 50 million. The budget's pretty much unknown. Do you think they'll spend big like we did in January, or do you think it'll be more reserved?
I want to be careful what I say here. I think people putting a number on it are wrong, because I don't think there is a number. I think they will sign if the right player becomes available, I think they'll sign them. So I don't think people saying, the budget's only 40 million, or the budget's 100 million, or they can spend 200 million. I think it'll be very much a case by case basis. They've got the people that they want to sign. If signing those players, if they get all of the ones they want, it's going to be up here. If they only get 1 or 2, I don't think they'll miss out on a target and they just go and buy someone else for the sake of it. I don't think they'll do that. If you look at what Jurgen Klopp's done at Liverpool, he waited for Alisson, he waited for Van Dijk, there was others. He didn't just go and buy someone else just to fill the slot. He waited for the one he wanted. And I think Newcastle are going to be a bit like that. If they don't get the ones they want, they won't just sign someone else, because this squad has proved already it's quite capable. So I think there's 5 or 6 players they'd like to sign. If they sign them all, then they'll have spent quite a lot of money. If they miss out on a couple, then it'll be less. But I don't think there's a number at this stage. I hope they get all the ones that they want, and that they spend quite a bit. But you're never going to get them all. So we'll just have to wait and see.
As always, there's been a lot of names mentioned. I never read too much into that because I think 9 times out of 10, 100 names are mentioned and we may not even sign one of those players. But out of the names that have been mentioned, does there seem to be much substance in any of those deals?
I think some of the players that we were linked with in January, there will be an interest in them again. I think some of the players we were linked with in January, there's no interest in now that ship sailed. I think there's other names as well in the frame. They've got a list. They know the positions they want to sign. I think they want a centre back, they want a left back, they want another centre midfielder, they want a right winger, and they definitely want at least one striker. They may sign another goalkeeper as well as competition for Dubravka, I believe. But I think there is some names you can just ignore, and some names do have substance too. But I think they've probably got 3 or 4 potentials in each position. So yeah, there's been a couple of names that have come up which there's definitely some truth to, and others you see and you just sort of laugh off. But I think fans are quite good. They're quite astute at working out which ones are good rumours and which ones perhaps aren't.
Not necessarily players that we've been linked with, but is there any names that you personally would like to see us bring into the football club?
I think I've said it already. I think I'd love us to sign. I think Sven Botman is a brilliant centre back. I'd love us to sign Botman. I think, there's obviously interest from Milan. They've just won the league. They're in the Champions League next season. So that's going to be tough, but I'd love us to sign him. He's a top centre-back. I'd love us to sign Darwin Núñez as a striker as well, but I think most clubs in the Premier League are looking at Darwin Núñez. He's done a fantastic job at Benfica. Again, the one thing Newcastle can't offer this summer is Champions League football. And I just hope that doesn't hinder us too much. You want players to do what Bruno did and Trippier and buy into the project and believe that you're signing for a club that could be winning the Champions League in a few years' time. But yeah, I'd love us to sign Núñez, love us to sign Botman. I love the whole Brazilian thing that's going on. So Renan Lodi, Paqueta, players like that have been linked with us that are great. There's part of me that's is ridiculous, but I know Neymar's been mentioned, and I did say it to my mates jokingly, like about 6 months ago. So I just wondered because that would be a signing where people would go, what? I just think like turning up and just like watching someone like Neymar play for Newcastle would just be like ridiculous. So there's this perverse part of me that thinks that would just be really, really funny. So I would quite like to see someone like Neymar arrive at the club because it would just show how far we've gone as a football club. I don't necessarily think it would be the most sensible signing for so many reasons, but just for pure comedy value, I think it would be quite funny.
Definitely, and I don't think many Newcastle fans would say no to Neymar. I think that would be fantastic. And position-wise, do you think there's one position we particularly need to strengthen in?
I think we need a right winger. I think as well. I think Ryan Fraser done brilliant, by the way, in the games he's played. I know you've got Jacob Murphy there, you've got Miggy Alma on, but an absolute top quality right winger I think would be good. We need a striker. I love Callum Wilson. I think he's one of the best strikers I've seen in my time supporting Newcastle, but we need cover for him if he's not going to be fit every game. The centre-backs did pretty well. I thought Dan Burn and Shaw did well. And I think when Lascelles came in, like I say, those last couple of games, I thought he looked like he'd really, really improved as a footballer from, probably someone who lost a lot of confidence earlier in the season, and he was just playing really, really well. But yeah, we could strengthen in every position. If we don't, it's not. The beauty of it is, if we don't strengthen in any position, then it's not a disaster. This team that we have now finished 4th in 2022, so they are very capable. And the full pre-season under Eddie Howe, they've got half a chance next season. But if we can add a couple of bits of quality, then I think it could be very exciting.
And final question, Pete, looking ahead to next season, do you think that top 10, top 6 is a realistic finish? Do you think we'll have a cup run?
I'd love us all to, I'd love it all. I'd love us to have a cup run. I'd love us to finish comfortably in the top 10. I think we should all set out next season just saying, let's hope we can finish in the top 10. Yeah. If that's our realistic hope for next season, then if we overachieve, then fantastic. But it would be nice to just have a season where we didn't spend any of it worried about relegation. And it's been ages since we've been able to feel like that. I think most seasons recently, there's been the threat of relegation until the last few games. So I would like to go through the whole season comfortable. Some great results against some of the top teams would be nice. beating a Manchester City, beating a Liverpool, trying to prove that we belong in that. The next target group for us is a sort of Leicester, West Ham, Wolves. I'd love us to sort of sit comfortably among that group of teams next season. If we can do that, then I'll be very, very happy. But yeah, cup run will be a massive bonus as well. But as you saw, Liverpool won both cups. They had played Chelsea in the final. It tends to be the teams, those top 4 teams that are getting to the finals of the cups at the moment as well. So it's not easy to win a cup, but if we can sit comfortably amongst that group of teams that I mentioned, then I'll be delighted.
I couldn't agree more. I think stability probably is the most important thing next season. I think we'll be a couple of years off challenging yet, but never say never, nothing's impossible. And I think this season improves that because finishing 11th, it does feel almost like we've won something considering how we started the season. But thanks very much for your time, Pete. It was a pleasure to have you on.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Holly. Thanks so much.
Home to the banks of the river.